Hey, what's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Mace. I'm coming to you from Canada. Today's video is about gun stats, gun statistics in the United States specifically. And when you look at some of these statistics, the contrasts, and it's mind-boggling, really, just how much gun violence there is in the States. It's crazy. It's crazy. Like, as a Canadian looking at it from the outside, it's weird. So the title of this, and this is from the Institute for Health Metrics and Evaluation, healthdata.org. On gun violence, the United States is an outlier. Let's get into it. Hope everybody's doing great. Make sure to comment down below. Get involved in that conversation. Let's check this out, man, because this is wild stuff. All right. On gun violence, the United States is an outlier. This is from 2023, 3 years ago. Stop gun violence. We have a photograph. American flag hanging in the background. Key takeaways. Age-adjusted firearm homicide rates in the U.S. are 33 times greater than in Australia. 77 times greater than Germany. Gun violence accounts for over 8% of deaths in the U.S. among those under the age of 20. That's an incredibly sad stat. Age-adjusted rates of firearm homicide are highest in Washington, D.C. and lowest in New Hampshire. The Germany comparison reminds me of a statistic in which German police officers in total, there was something like they discharged their firearms like 87 times. This was more a slant towards statistics involving law enforcement, but still, it was the statistic was wild. It was like German officers fired their weapons like 7 times, or they fired 70 bullets or something in a whole year. And in the US, it was either they didn't have a statistic for it, or it was just innumerable, thousands and thousands and thousands of rounds fired in comparison. And yes, US has a bigger population, but the gun culture, the culture around guns is just completely different. All right, let's continue. Among 65 high-income countries and territories, the United States stands out for its high levels of gun violence. The US ranks 7th out of 65 for homicides by firearm, age-adjusted. Puerto Rico and the U.S. Virgin Islands, 2 U.S. territories, rank 1st and 4th on that list, respectively. Firearm injuries tend to be more frequent in places where people have easy access to firearms. Wow! I would have never thought. Firearm injuries tend to be more frequent in places where people have easy access to firearms, according to findings from the 2018 Global Burden of Disease study published in the Journal of the American Medical Association. Yeah, common sense. I think common sense gun laws are just what they are. Common sense, and they save lives. There's nothing, I don't think, inherently wrong with guns, besides the fact that they are a lethal weapon, and they, when it comes to tools to kill, they're great. They're great. If you want to kill, they're great. They're great. When you remove ease of access to them, people aren't as effective when it comes to killing because they got to use other. Yeah. And then, so one of the arguments is always like, well, if they don't have a gun, they're just going to use something else. What do you want to ban? Knives? Do you want to ban cars? It's like, no, but those are much less effective means of killing somebody. So the chances of somebody killing somebody are lessened than somebody having a pistol and going up and bang, 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 bang. If they try to kill him with a knife, at least the other person has a chance. These situations aren't easy to dissect, and we're speaking in generalities and hypotheticals, so it's kind of pointless. But the fact is, just like this says, if you remove the ease of access to firearms, there's going to be less firearm injuries. Rates of firearm homicides among the high-income countries. So yeah, we have the Virgin Islands at just an astronomical amount. I wonder why that is specifically. Then you have the Bahamas, Trinidad and Tobago, Puerto Rico, Panama. When we look exclusively at high-income countries and territories with populations of 10 million or more, so the U.S. ranks first. Rates of firearm homicides among high-income countries with populations over 10 million in 2021. So the United States, 4.52 homicides per 100,000, which is almost 3 times as much as the next and just astronomical. I think this graph paints a very illuminating picture, which puts it into perspective for anybody that wonders like just how out of whack it is. So just look at that. 4.52, then you have Saudi Arabia, 1.46, Chile, 1.2, and then you get Canada, 0.62. So Canada can even get better because you have countries like in Europe and some Nordic countries that are even halving what Canada is at and less. Crazy. All right, age-adjusted firearm homicide rates in the U.S. are 19 times greater than they are in France. 19 times greater. 77 times greater than in Germany. That's crazy. So you wonder how the U.S. population and legislators, lawmakers don't see these stats and they don't have some massive cultural shift. Oh, it's only been, 4 weeks until the last school shooting, like since the last school shooting. And listen, Canada had a school shooting recently and it's horrific and sad and terrible. So I think we really need to tighten up gun and gun violence, especially with a mental health crisis, I would say, and other crises as well. But yeah, people need to not have access to guns right now. It's probably a good idea to keep them locked up and have really good rules in place. Wait times for getting them. They need to be locked up. Ammunition needs to be separate. You need background checks and serious training. The trend continues for percentage of child deaths caused by firearms, including physical violence, suicide, and unintentional injury. Gun violence accounts for 8% of deaths in the U.S. among those under the age of 20, a figure that stands far above peer countries. When excluding infants, who have higher rates of death from neonatal causes, that number jumps to 15%. Percentage of childhood deaths caused by firearms among high-income countries with populations over 10 million. The United States is an outlier in childhood deaths. So, once again, the graph puts it into a very easy to digest and easy to see perspective, because that's just crazy. Look at that. And look at Canada's the next on the list. Within the U.S., gun violence varies widely. Age-adjusted firearm homicide rates from a high of 14.4 per 100,000 in Washington, D.C. That's crazy, 14.4 per 100,000. That's massive. Absolutely massive. A low of 1.1 in New Hampshire. Washington, D.C.'s rate is similar to those of Brazil and Jamaica, which rank 9th and 10th globally. New Hampshire's rate is similar to that of Chile. Even though New Hampshire has the lowest rate of age-adjusted firearm homicides in the U.S., its rate is still 3 times greater than the highest rate in Europe, Cyprus, with 0.36 deaths per 100,000. Washington, D.C. has the highest rate of deaths from gun violence in the United States. So look at that. The District of Columbia, 14.37. That's crazy. And very sad. All right. Washington, D.C. accounts for the greatest percentage of child deaths by firearm, where 13.8% of those who die under the age of 20. 13.8% of those who die under the age of 20 are victims of gun violence. I assume a lot of this has to do with the drug trade, criminality, obviously, and gang violence. When excluding infant deaths, that becomes nearly a third. Illinois and Louisiana also stand out with 11.3% of child deaths being attributed to firearms. Meanwhile, Hawaii, Rhode Island, and Massachusetts come in at the bottom of the list, each with less than 4% of children being killed by guns. Bravo. Percentage of total childhood deaths due to gun violence, 2021. Percentages include deaths by homicide, suicide, and accidental deaths in children under 20 years old. Those are some of the saddest stories you ever hear is, a toddler getting a hold of a weapon in the house and playing with it, right? And shooting themselves. It's incredibly sad and criminally negligent and irresponsible by the gun owners to allow that to happen. So you can see these densely colored states have much higher percentages. So you see Louisiana, Illinois, Missouri, New Mexico, and Alaska. Since 2000, the share of all childhood deaths caused by gun violence in the U.S. has increased by about 33%, with the largest portion consistently due to physical violence, followed by suicide, and the smallest share caused by unintentional firearm injuries. Percentage of childhood deaths caused by gun violence, 2000 and 2021. So it's raised a significant amount in 20 years. Taking a global view that includes countries of all income levels and population sizes, the 10 nations with the highest age-adjusted rates of firearm homicides are Venezuela, El Salvador, Mexico, Bahamas, Honduras, Trinidad, Tobago, Colombia, Guatemala, Brazil, and Jamaica. So countries with intense geopolitical conflict and higher crime rates and drug trade. So it makes sense. Research has found higher levels of homicides in these countries are associated with drug cartels, the illegal trade in firearms from the U.S., and firearms flowing to civilians after conflicts end. There you go. So, very illuminating stats. The U.S., just compared to the entire world, is not even a comparison. And that's the thing in the U.S. Like, you'll have people just got these things loaded, sitting on their nightstands when they go to sleep. And the access is so easy for them. It only takes one big argument, getting pissed off. You're going to grab it and bang, bang, bang. Sad, man. I don't know. I don't even know what to think of it. That's wild. Very illuminating and shocking. All right. See you on the next one.